Mike Slagh, the founder and CEO of Shift. We're a career change company for military veterans.
Robby Peters, co-founder of PeopleTech and Sempervirens. So how's the conference been going for you so far?
It's been quite the experience. I've never been in an environment where so many people who really care about what we're working on, but also what I care about what they're working on, have been in the same place at the same time. It doesn't feel like a random group of people. It feels like a lot of people who are working together towards the same goals and the same mission.
Yeah,
it's very sweet.
There's a big energy around that, right?
For sure.
That's awesome. And I'm trying to remember, do you remember how we originally got introduced into PeopleTech? Obviously it was the start of it, but do you remember who got
Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I think it was either through Lightspeed or maybe you introduced.
You're right. It was Knuckle at Lightspeed.
Right, okay.
Which is a cool story because he worked on Reflective, which was one of the first companies we ever...
Got it. I was like, either you introduced me to Knuckle or the other way around.
No, it's the other way.
Perfect.
The other way. So that's awesome. Tell me about, when we first met, obviously you were still pretty early. The concept was there, but even at the time you were like, hey, I got to wait a little time before we go into PeopleTech, right? Because you wanted to get it to the right spot. But what was the thing that really attracted you most to what we were doing with PeopleTech?
Yeah, it was definitely really early. We were still in the process of convincing the military to help us facilitate this program that is pretty complex and kind of a first of its kind thing.
Yeah.
And I left the military to start essentially a recruiting company to help vets get jobs and careers that they love, and to pivot into something that gives them credit for their past experience so their future is accelerated.
Totally.
But starting a military recruiting company, knowing everything about, or a lot at least, about the military, but basically nothing about recruiting. and the people space and people operations, talent acquisition, and just how these conversations take place. I knew I needed to find a good partner. Like just the density of people coming together, sort of like surrounding this network has just been, more than inspiring. It's been like shocking almost.
Can you describe, so you made that decision to do that time, right? And then when you came in, which was now probably almost a year and a half ago or so,
just over a year,
like what was your start with PeopleTech? Like what did that experience happen? And then like describe the original program a little bit.
So my experience and what I tell other founders who are worried, like, is this going to be a waste of my time? I tell them, you can get as much out of this program as you want to. As much as you're willing to put into it, the network will reciprocate that equally or even greater. And so for me, I was this typical early stage founder that was split into a bunch of different directions. The experience is so good that I wish I could have invested more time into it.
But, I like that.
What the benefit is even in a short period of time, PeopleTech almost feels like a venture-backed startup to me because of the growth that I've seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
In the network over even the last year. So Seattle launching, Austin, New York City spinning up, and obviously the network in Silicon Valley. So connected to investors, so connected to other founders doing similar things. I think that's been one of the most exciting things is just finding peers who are at similar size and stage, and it's kind of hard to find because HR technology and people technology is a little bit kind of niche, but you find the people who are actually just sort of accelerating their journey together, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome, right? And everybody, is working towards a similar goal, selling and building product for the same person, but really not competing, right? So you're all able to kind of share those contexts.
That's right. I appreciate you curating it like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's we let on PeopleTech for sure. We let the group decide, and I think we're always looking for the next innovative, up and coming thing, and there's so many great things that are coming forward. But talk a little bit about kind of what are some of the key pieces of feedback. So like when you work with an advisor like Regini, who I know you've worked with for a long time, like what is that experience for you? Bringing her on board and working with you.
Yeah, it's so hard to get like real feedback. And I don't know if it's harder or easier, dealing with talent acquisition professionals, HR departments, but every organization is really its own organism. So being able to have just this high velocity of conversations around how this organization thinks about bringing new people into their company, or how that organization thinks about it. These conversations are totally different. And you can really quickly go down the wrong path if you put too much stock into one individual conversation. And so having access to advisors like Luke Regini, Mark Lipscomb, these
yeah,
people,
yeah.
They all are saying similar things,
yeah.
but it's all real.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the more real conversations you can have, the faster you can actually get your hands around what this,
awesome.
what this strategy might look like.
They're telling it to you straight.
That's
you
right.
know, like if you're having sales calls, you're sitting there, and people will tell you kind of what they want to hear to get off the phone, right? Or they maybe not really will critique it the way. Where
That's right.
These founders, these advisors are with you as the founder, and they'll give it to you straight.
They'll
right?
say, here's why I would honestly say no.
Yeah, yeah.
And like learning why people
awesome.
say no is more important than learning why people say yes.
So true.
Because there's tons of pathways to yes,
Yep.
but if you hit that roadblock, then you're pretty much done at that point. So getting as many high quality conversations as possible, as fast as possible. I think that's like the number 2 benefit of PeopleTech. The number 1 is the relationships.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I believe that the people who are in this space and who really care about the things that we're doing here, we're all going to be doing this for like at least the next decade.
Yeah,
if not the next 2 or 3.
Totally.
I'm not going anywhere.
No, no.
So meeting these people now, really, relatively early in my career, I don't know if you can put a value on that.
Yeah, yeah. And we're changing the world, right? I mean, what you're doing, could you describe a little bit about, just kind of how the product's evolved and just everyone understand why you're building what you're building?
Yeah, I think that, it's really hard, so we're helping veterans get their first post-military career, trying to find a really great fit, particularly in major metropolitan job markets. There are certainly some preconceived notions about hiring vets, but it's just structurally really difficult no matter who you are. If you're living in rural Fort Benning, Georgia, to get a job in Chicago, or to get a job in San Francisco. And so it's so much so that 80% of vets who land in major metropolitan job markets after the military don't arrive there with a full-time job offer in hand.
Really?
That's bad.
Wow. That's I mean, that's a big risk to take after you just obviously put all the time in for the country.
It's huge, and these are the places, like these, major metropolitan markets are the places where people's careers will be most accelerated. They have the highest density of opportunities. They can start to build, the same sort of network for themselves, like I've done be a part of the PeopleTech network here. The program that we've designed actually allows active duty service members to leave base, travel to a major metropolitan job market, start working full-time on site while the government still pays their salary and benefits for a few months. And for an active duty service member, just getting the space and time to get some of that awkward, like first day on the job, first day in a new industry, out of the way before they're actually a full-time employee with KPIs and OKRs hanging over their head. They're some of the most ramped people on day 1 of their job because they got to participate in this program. And that's a big deal.
That's amazing. Yeah, what's been like the feedback? I mean, you've obviously helped so many people get jobs. How are they describing this? Can you talk about like the passion they have behind it? I mean,
many people just dramatically underestimate like how long it takes. Like you're not going to change careers in 2 weeks. This is a process.
Totally.
And so there's long feedback cycles for us. But for the folks that got full-time jobs 6 months ago, a year ago, they've been promoted 1 or 2 times by now. And so that's I think that's the best feedback that I'm getting is that the folks who landed successfully, they're promoting. In fact, now 2 companies, and I've heard rumors of a 3rd, that fellows are now hosting their own military fellows.
Oh my gosh, no way, really?
And so this is, there's just an incredible network effect here. And I think it's one that I always suspected existed, but I think even I underestimated it.
That's awesome. And it seems like the government's really seeing this too, right? Talk a little bit about, kind of the bells and whistles and things you've had to work around to make this even happen.
Yeah, I completely understand why this is initially was a relatively like high contrast idea. Like if I'm a military commander and I'm gonna send my soldier to downtown, leave Georgia on a Friday, start work at Uber headquarters in Soma, San Francisco on a Monday. I want to make sure that One, that the basics are taken care of. They're going to be in a safe environment. They're going to have somebody who's directly managing them and investing in them in the same way that a military commander might, but also that there's legitimate outcomes associated with it.
Got it.
That it's not a scam.
Yeah.
And so once we had this first cohort of people, 85% of them getting full-time job offers within the first 3 months of arrival.
That's amazing.
And 100% of people getting job offers somewhere else in that industry within 3 months of military separation.
Yeah.
Those results,
the proof points, and it was
spoke for themselves. And I think that, like, to the military's credit, there's a healthy amount of skepticism in figuring out how do we take care of people who are changing careers, and because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of resources.
Yeah.
But when something's working, the mindset and the effort, the enthusiasm, the support can shift dramatically, and they can move really, really fast.
That's awesome.
That's awesome to see.
And you're hitting that.
That's
right
why
now.
I signed
That's
up in
like
the first place.
Yeah,
Because once we figure out a way or a process that works, everybody's all in.
Yeah.
Like, it's a mission,
That's
and everybody sort of surrounds that, and it's not. There are no half measures.
So
once you get to the point where, like, there's legitimate success stories happening, then it's hard to sort of imagine what the potential could be.
Wow, that's amazing. That's got to feel really awesome.
I'm excited. We're gonna we're thinking it's gonna be 500 to 1,000 people getting fellowships this year. Super exciting for us.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of work.
Totally.
Every single one of these is just like such an investment that we're making in every single fellowship.
Yep.
But it's a drop in the bucket. There's 250,000 people who leave the military every single year.
Yep.
There's another 100,000 people who graduate from GI Bill programs, and they're also hitting the job market for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, the amount, right? So it's amazing in that 500 to 1,000, but then you're also like, there's such a big opportunity to help here. So how do you scale? What's your thought? Obviously, it sounds like incrementally you had to get that first cohort right, and now you're building a process, but now you're going to look for scale. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's definitely, and as we sort of prepare for that, going from very few people getting approved by the military to participate to an order of magnitude more this year, we can only anticipate that it's going to be an order of magnitude more next year. We want to participate as well.
Got it.
And so you can be extremely hands-on and extremely manual in your approach when you're at the scale of matching 500 people to 500 opportunities. But how this becomes a program that really anybody from the military can participate in is if we can start to scale the way that we prepare people to change careers. So that's what we're investing in, and that's what we're trying to learn about as rapidly as possible. We're trying to shorten the feedback loops. Because many people want to change careers, but the amount of just knowing what to do, having a pathway, and just understanding the actual physical effort that's required. That's the thing where this is not necessarily going to be end-to-end automated, like push this button, get a new job. People have to be able to put in the work. But there are certain parts of that process around discovery, understanding what you're qualified for today, and what you might be qualified for tomorrow if you just learn one specific skill, that we can build software products around.
Got it. So it's building that process with technology and people and allowing it to scale. That's awesome. I want to ask a couple of things on some of your interactions. I know we talked a little about, Mark, you brought up Lipscomb. Can you talk a bit? I mean, how your interactions with him? Obviously, he has a military background, so there's been some passion there. But just your interactions, and then some of the talks that you both have done together. If you can give us a little insight.
Yeah, it's interesting because like Mark has really established himself as a leader in the human resources and talent functions. But we also have this shared connection, this shared background. One of the things that you see when people have, whether they've been out of the military for 1 year or they've been out of the military for 20 years, there's still this common bond. And even though that we did very different jobs in the Navy, there's still this like shared mutual respect. And there's a lot of, unifying traits and attributes of military service. One is that we both signed up to be part of a mission that was bigger than ourselves. And so with Mark specifically, he's somebody that I can always go to for tactical advice. Probably get even more raw feedback than some of the advisors, because he knows how I tick, and we've been able to establish a relationship.
Yep.
But also, you know, not to say that there's a huge generational gap between us, but it's like, look, he's established himself,
sure.
and he's done, you know, big things at companies like Tesla, and Netflix, and 23andMe.
Yeah.
And so it's being able to have somebody who you have this very deep shared connection with, but they've almost like seen 10 years into the future.
Totally.
So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing, because he actually has both sides, like he's been in the military and he's an HR leader, part of it, again, is this translation for companies to understand, right? So you all did a panel at the Sempervirens, you know, investment kickoff, and you were talking about like what are the questions people are going to have, right?
That's
like,
right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Mark and I were trying to figure out, all right, what are we going to talk about that really delivers value to the audience? And, you know, there's a bunch of different reasons why people are curious about military backgrounds.
Yep.
Like, maybe they're interested in the fact that it's like this incredible diversity pipeline where 60% of some of these cohorts have underrepresented backgrounds.
Yep.
Maybe they're interested in the fact that like we've already invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in each person in their professional development and training. And this is just a really coachable, teachable workforce.
Totally.
And they all might just be interested in the fact that like the sheer volume.
Like,
here's 200,000 people a year that nobody's really competing over.
Sure.
But Mark and I realized that almost every veteran has like common questions that they need answered. And if employers are prepared to answer those questions, they're already in the top like 1% of employers who are competing over this talent pipeline. And so the questions are, you know, surprisingly simple. But it's like, if you've been living on a submarine for the last 4 years, how do you even know what your life is going to look like when you walk into a fast-growing company? And so there's just like some basic questions around what can I do today? How does career trajectory work? How does salary progression work? And because just like employers have preconceived notions about vets, I promise you, vets have like very strong preconceived notions about how the workforce works. And if you've been in a very structured, hierarchical organization for the last 4 years, you're thinking to yourself, when you separate from the military, all right, I got to really commit to one thing in one company for the next 4 to 5 years to catch up to my peers. There's incredible opportunity cost to that. Because that's just not the way the workforce works today.
Totally. Wow, that's awesome.
So when you started talking to me about this idea, you're like, I'm going to start a venture fund. I'm like, yeah, you should do that. That's a really good idea, because there's a bunch of stuff going on around the various things that you've built over the last few years, and it's all just extremely complementary. And putting this all together where there's an actual vehicle for folks on your side to understand from what types of products are starting to succeed in the market, from the Sequoia side to the PeopleTech side, surrounding people with an advisory network to accelerate our progress, to actually having a vehicle for growth. When things are working really well from Sempervirens, it's kind of genius. I feel like you've been masterminding this for a long time, but the Sempervirens specifically, just invested in the most recent round and shift. Very much looking forward to all the close collaboration that we have from a partnerships perspective. And I think that's really the thing that's most exciting, is that this isn't, you see a lot of like new VC funds that are standing up, and maybe it's somebody who has had a ton of success in an operational role, and they've got a bunch of value add. But I think that in the future, like pretty much every new VC fund is going to have some sort of very specific value add. Like when you get to a point where something's working at a company, you want to work with people who can throw like smart resources at a problem. And so for any founder who's thinking about HR tech, talent acquisition, people, giving benefits to employees that makes their lives better. the first stop, or at least the first conversation, has to be Sempervirens.
Totally. Oh, I appreciate that. And maybe too, can you describe a little bit, because again, we're appreciative of you even letting us have this opportunity, right? I mean, there are a lot of larger established VC firms. I mean, I think luckily we're putting a structure where we can partner, but they're competitive, right? Like all these are competitive. So even when you have that conversation with the larger firms, you know, what do you talk to them about? Are they seeing the value add that we can bring?
Yeah, that's really topical, because you know, it's a relatively new fund.
Yeah.
And it's really, you know, when you get to a point where you know, we only needed to raise a certain amount of money.
Yep.
It only made sense for, you know, what our like follow-on prospects might look like.
Yep.
And so we were down to accounting for like, where is every dollar
Yep.
in this fundraising round going to go to?
Yep.
And it's definitely a challenge to have conversations around like, you know, this person brings this value that's more than you.
Yeah.
But that's really the types of conversations that you have to have.
Yep.
And my only wish is that there's you know, much more room in future rounds.
Totally. No.
As Sempervirens continues to scale and grow as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, we're there for the long-term commitment with companies. I mean, we've been following on and working together for quite some time, right? And
Yep.
you talked about that progression so well, right? With
Yep.
the start in PeopleTech, and then the opportunity to now be co-invested together, right? And also, you know, aligning goals of like, hey, these are our targets now that we're going to go from a introductions perspective or a sales perspective, right? And I think hopefully that'll continue to prove our value to the partners in the larger firms as well.
100%. Like, I know you probably have some sort of like next plan, or like what the next product or program is, but like I don't know how you can sort of like create something that's more comprehensive than what you have right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. Well, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.